Glad you have. So now let's talk a little bit more about tamaguna. Tamaguna really refers to the darkness that covers our light. And so that usually relates to all sorts of negative feelings, emotions, beliefs that we have about ourselves, other people, and the world. Now, previously I've also mentioned that the actions done in tamaguna are usually done out of habit. And some of those habits, though, are actually quite useful. We could call them the good habits, right? They are also done unconsciously, but they're actually good. For example, we learn how to drive car, we do it long enough, and then we just don't think about anymore how to drive a car, right? Because we just go into the car, we have developed a good habit, and we just know how to drive. And that is also considered to be obviously a habit, right? Because we don't actually think about it anymore, okay? So there is these good habits that we have developed and that we just do as a routine, okay? But then there's also habits that we have developed that are based on pain and trauma, okay? And they are also ruled by tamaguna as well, okay? So what does that mean? Well, we have developed habits that cause us pain, but we are not conscious of them, okay? So how could that happen, you might ask? Well, if as a child, you experienced some type of pain of not feeling loved as much as you needed, what were your options at that time how to deal with that situation, right? As a child, we are helpless, right? We might scream, right, to get more attention, but usually that might even make it worse, right? If our parents are not really, loving parents, right? And we also, of course, we can't just run away, just jump out of the, jump out of wherever we are lying down and just say goodbye, I'm just gonna find some better parents or something. So as small children, what we can basically do is, we can just try and forget our pain and push it down into our unconscious memory, right? So the pain is not gone at that time, but at least we are not aware of it. And so we can continue our life, okay? But that pain is still there, it's repressed, it's unresolved, and we develop unconscious habits in the area where we experienced the pain, okay? So now, what to do about it? The image of who we are exists in the mind as memory pictures when we think about the past, right? We call this our material ego and our story of life. And whatever pain is associated to our thoughts and beliefs about ourselves is part of that mentally construed self. And so it is important that we don't fall into the trap of actually identifying with our fears, with our worries, our sadness, our disappointment, right? When we use language, we really need to be careful when we say, I am angry, or I am sad, or I have anxiety. Because now, you are attaching yourself to that emotion, which is not really you. You experience anxiety. Anxiety is an emotion that flows through you. It comes up and it might even be habitual, but it is not you. Just like I have this glass here, okay? I can pick up this object and I can hold on to it, okay? But I can also let it go and I can put it down, okay? So your emotions are the same thing, right? It's like this object, okay? You are feeling it, you are experiencing it, but it is not you. Just like, this glass here. This glass is, of course, not me. This glass is not me, right? We can all agree on that, okay? So, our emotions, they are no different, right? And so we have that ability, just like we can pick up this glass and we can hold on to it, we can also put it down and let go of those emotions as well, right? Of course, we therefore have the ability to, yes, we can hold on to our emotions, we can let them consume us, weigh on us, we can carry them for days and weeks and months, years, sometimes not even just one life, lifetimes we can carry those emotions around. Or we have also the ability that we can just let go of them and just put them down. So many times when we are dealing with problems, we are dealing with pain that we can release. And those emotions, they're like clouds in the sky, right? They come and they go. Maybe you might even go through a storm, but the storm always passes. It's the same with our emotion, right? The reason why we habitually and consistently experience them is because we are resisting them. We are holding on to them, we're suppressing them, and we haven't learned how to let go of them and release them. But it is those emotions, the stress and anxiety that we are experiencing, that they are not us, okay? They don't have to define us, okay? We can just let go of them and release them. It's not easy, it takes work. There's a lot of healing work that needs to be done, but it is possible to do. So now the tamasic signs are Virgo, Scorpio, Capricorn, and Aquarius. Saturn is a tamasic planet, and he rules the two tamasic signs, Capricorn and Aquarius. Mars is also a tamasic planet, and he rules tamasic Scorpio. Mars also rules Aries, which is Rajasic. And that's basically, that shows Mars's passionate side, okay? Mercury is a Rajasic planet, and he rules tamasic Virgo. So we can see that Mercury, through the sign of Virgo, also has to get his hands dirty, right? Because he needs to deal also with some unpleasant stuff as well. And we use the tamasic signs to deal with pain, overcome problems, and remove ourselves from danger, right? So let's say if you wake up because the house is on fire and you have to jump out of bed and run out of the house as quick as possible, that's a tamasic motivation, right? But if you jump out of bed at 5 a.m. And feel inspired to run because it's sort of your lifestyle, to be fit, to have energy, you're all inspired, about the life that you can create and the kingdom you can build, then that is actually a sattvic motivation. If you're bored the whole day, you don't know what to do, and a friend calls you up and the friend is all psyched up about, hey, let's go for a run in the park, why don't you come with me? Then that is a Rajasic motivation. But so much about what we do in our life is actually done unconsciously, which might actually be shocking to us, right? We might think that, wow, how is this possible? Because I'm obviously, I'm awake, so I'm conscious of what I'm doing, right? But studies actually have shown that 40 to 95% of human behavior, what we think, what we say, what we do, is actually done out of habit. And so if we just take a conservative 50%, that will mean that we are on autopilot half the time, half of our life, okay? Meaning that's when we are actually awake, right? We're also sleeping as well. So, the time that we are actually conscious is very little, actually, okay? Now, of course, sometimes we don't mind that we have these sort of unconscious habits. We have these good habits. We need them, actually, as I said. Certain things, they have to just be second nature. Otherwise, we're constantly overthinking so many things. It would just drive us crazy when every time, we have to just be so, literally conscious of every step in our life, right? Literally every second, right? So it is good to have good habits. But then, what about those other activities that we do throughout the day? Let's say, when we are at work, when we are designing something, drafting proposals, we perhaps have to prepare the classes that we want to teach or make some other important decisions. Are we actually really conscious at that time, right? Research says no, right? Much of what we do, including our professional work, is highly driven by habits. And this is actually not surprising because Capricorn, the sign of our, professional accomplishments, is tamasic, right? Once we develop the routine, we just tend to work in the same way every day, okay? And Aquarius is the other tamasic sign. And Aquarius is a social sign, right? It has all to do with our relationships. And, we can all attest to the fact that so much about how we relate to each other in our relationships is habitual, right? We do the same things in our relationships with other people day in and day out, right? And again, some of those habits are very good habits because it makes life efficient, right? That is why, specifically, Virgo is actually, we're going to talk about it later on as well. Virgo is also a tamasic sign because it is good to have habits and routines that make our life easier, better, more efficient, okay? But there's always a chance that the reason why they are habitual is because we do not actually want to be conscious, right? There's a possibility that there's actually pain there. And that is why Tamagun is basically called the mode of darkness, because it can also cover our light, okay? Our peace, our joy in life. So in more practical terms, Capricorn and Aquarius, they give us solid structures in life that we can depend on, that give us stability in life, and that allow us to fulfill our obligations. Right? Saturn in that sense is very simple. He just wants to do what he needs to do. And, and then Saturn is happy, okay? For that reason, Capricorn and Aquarius people, they are actually very simple people, right? Capricorn just wants to have enough money and security, and then just relax and have no worries about life, okay? Aquarius just wants to have freedom and live in a peaceful world, right? So Capricorn and Aquarius people in that sense have a very simple mindset, actually. It's only when those signs become afflicted and when those two signs become too much involved with the ego, then life becomes very complicated, right? Capricorn people, they become control freaks, they become preoccupied, with all the things that could go wrong. Then they start to dream about also, the amount of money they need to make to be happy. And life gets really complicated. Aquarius people too, they don't feel like that they belong to society, and they come up with all sorts of weird conspiracy theories, and they want to be totally different than everyone else, and they also really struggle, to actually, to obviously to live a productive and happy life, right? But if Capricorn and Aquarius are nice, then these signs are very nice actually, because they give us those solid structures in life, they give us stability, that and that are sort of very easily satisfied by those things once they have actually attained a certain amount of psychological health, okay? And then with Capricorn, they can actually feel secure with what they have, and with Aquarius, they can actually feel a sense of belonging. Scorpio is the other tamasic sign, and Scorpio is really excellent for dealing with problems, right? It's ruled by Mars that loves challenges, and when Scorpio is healthy, people do really great with their problems in life, right? They can really excel in life, by overcoming their problems. They rise to the occasion, they're able to fight their way through. They have all this strength, this confidence, this courage, to overcome anything that comes into their way. And once they have done so, right, if it's a healthy Scorpio, if they don't have problems, then they can also be quite content in life as well, right? Scorpio is a female sign, and so they can just relax and go with the flow. And the minute there's a problem, it can really be surprising how well they can deal with their difficulties. But when Scorpio is afflicted, then a person can really fall apart quite easily, right? They can give up their hope that life can actually get any better. They might be so hurt that they can really just react in reckless ways and be really out of control, right? Scorpio is the sign of dealing with our emotional problems, and when it's afflicted, then a person just doesn't know how to deal with their emotional problems. Some might ignore it, and others, they will just really have no boundaries, how much they are literally show their pain to the people that they're with, okay? And also make their life as painful as possible as well. So an afflicted Scorpio basically hasn't learned how to release their bad feelings and to replace them with good ones, right? And this is actually when a person with an afflicted Scorpio becomes quite difficult to be with, right? Because they have all these fears and phobias that they haven't resolved yet. Virgo is the other tamasic sign, and its lord Mercury is a Rajasic planet, because Mercury likes activity, right? He is happy to pursue his trivial interests and curiosities. He likes to have fun. And so Mercury itself is a fun planet to be with, okay? And of course, that Rajasic nature of Mercury that creates all this excitement, that comes out through his Rajasic sign of Gemini. But then he also rules the tamasic sign of Virgo, and this really shows Mercury's ability to help us with our problems in life. And that's why so often when we go into a bhukti of Mercury, we start to work on our problems, right? Mercury through Virgo is really so capable of working on problems, because he can see them, he's curious, he investigates, he sees what can be done, and then he finds the best possible solution, right? And so Virgo, like all the other tamasic signs, really motivate us to do something because there is a problem. And Mercury through Gemini actually might also deal with problems, right? But it will deal with it in a totally different way, right? Because Gemini is the rajasic part of Mercury. And so Gemini is, it might, for example, read about problems, right? Or it might just get busy and develop a huge amount of knowledge and skill before even the problem happens, right? For Gemini, it's sort of fun and exciting, to sort of deal with problems, right? But Virgo is a Tamasic sign and an earth sign, so naturally Virgo is very capable, but they will actually not deal with problems until they have to. Why should they deal with something that is not a problem yet, right? So Virgo might really think this is unnecessary. And when the problem comes, then I'm gonna deal with it. But until it comes, I don't need to deal with it. Whereas for Mercury, it's just something, for Gemini, it's just something that, it's a fun thing. You figure out, oh, what could go wrong? Maybe I could develop a skill about it. For them, it is really this sort of excitement that they have about, just developing a lot of skills, knowing a lot of things. And that's sort of the most important. This is how basically Gemini actually would deal with problems and how Gemini looks at problems.